Hello, it's Ashley with At Home with Ashley. Today I have a bit of a wild idea. So the sofa I usually record my intro on is in my craft room / office, and it's like beige. It's so boring. I'm like, what if I can dye it? So I bought some dye from the craft store. It was $3 for a bottle. I bought 2 bottles, and I'm hoping with $6 we can totally transform the sofa. So let's see what we can do. My husband said there's like a 50% chance I ruin it. I really don't want to do that. So let's see what happens. Okay, the first thing I am doing is I am boiling water. So I'm going to work in smaller batches and brush it on with a paintbrush. I've seen people just like kind of pour it on and then rinse it off with a hose. But the worry with that is like mold inside of the sofa, so I don't want to deal with that. So we're going to do it more simplified. If you've watched my game book transformations, this is how I dyed the game books, and so I think I'll just do the exact same thing and do it slowly and hopefully more safe. Okay, let's start this dyeing process by mixing the dye. I'm going to mix 1 bottle of the fabric dye with hot water in a 5-quart pot on the stovetop. So it's about 4 quarts of water in the pan, as much as the pot will hold without boiling over. And then you're going to add in 2 drops of Dawn dish soap and 2 teaspoons of salt to the dye bath. Mix it well with a stainless steel spoon, and then bring the dye mixture to a boil. And I repeated this step again with the love seat when it was halfway dyed. So with 1 chair, I would do 1 bottle of dye, do this once, a love seat, or 2 chairs, do 2 bottles of dye, do this twice, and a sofa, you'll probably need 3. It's a general suggestion, but I think it'll work great. And it's best to mix the dye in smaller mixtures and make sure to use the exact same quantities each time so that the color keeps looking the same. Before you begin, make sure to wear rubber gloves. You don't want your hands dyed the same color. I've dyed much smaller things and my hands were the same color as the dye for days. Wear gloves. Also wear an outfit you don't care if you have dye on. I put an apron over that, and even with that, I still got dye on the bottom of my clothes. So prepare yourself. And now it's time to apply the dye. I brought my love seat outside just so that I wouldn't get dye everywhere, but you can also put down a plastic drop cloth or old sheets. You just want to make sure to protect your floors because you don't want them to get splatters on them, dye your floors, and the furniture around you, you also don't want to dye. So be careful with that. So to apply the dye, we're going to leave the dye in the pot. This is what worked best for me. And I'm just leaving it in there, and I'm using a hot pad, like a silicone hot pad, so that I can have that pot really close by because I want it to be as hot as possible. And when I was putting it in another container, I was like dropping the dye everywhere, so I just like this better. And then to apply the dye, you're just going to dip a foam paintbrush into the dye and brush it onto the fabric. Work in small areas to ensure even coverage, and this is really slow going. You're going to have to dip the brush in the dye once, push it on the fabric, and go again and again and again, and you just apply a little bit of dye as you go, and you just keep working across the upholstery to cover the fabric in dye. And it's best to continuously work your way across the fabric on the love seat or whatever piece of furniture you're doing, and kind of have one area wet with dye, and then the next one you keep like going so that you're not going to get streaks, so it kind of flows together. You're just kind of keeping it wet. And you want to try your best for an even application. Consistently apply the dye just so you don't get an uneven color. And then for darker or more vibrant colors, multiple coats of dye may be necessary. I did 2 coats of dye on the fabric to make sure the beige color was dyed the teal color. So this took a few hours. Getting my brush into the tufts kind of took a while, and where there's like gathers in the fabric, I kind of had to make sure to get that. I did the back, even though you don't see it where it's sitting. I just tried to get full coverage so that it would look as amazing as possible, and it was really fun because you could see it immediately working. Okay, so this has been sitting outside for, overnight. We finished at like 4 o'clock yesterday. We moved it over here in the sun, and by probably 7 p.m. it all felt dry to me, but I just wanted it to dry overnight. Sorry, my chickens are very loud. But it's really dry now, and I think it'll be okay to move inside now. And it only got a few leaves on it, which is good. I'm very glad a chicken didn't come up here and poop on it. Okay, the sofa is done. I am going to show it to you. I am very excited because I think it turned out so good. Let's see. Okay, so here's some FAQs. Number one, is the color permanent? Once it dries, it is. It hasn't gotten on my clothes at all. It's great. If you're worried about it like wearing off, like if it's a super high traffic area where your kids are climbing on it every day for hours, you can use a product called Color Fixative. I'll link it in the description below. And this just kind of helps the color stay where it is. Another question I got was, what's the texture or feel of the upholstery once it's dried? And for me, it felt the same as before. I've used fabric paint to paint like a chair, and that was like dry and crunchy. And this, like, once it dried, it just felt the same as it always had. It's nice and soft, like the dye penetrates the fabric, but it doesn't leave like a coating or anything like that. So I think it feels great, which is really important if you're gonna try this. And honestly, I was so pleased that with $6, I could totally change the color of my upholstery. And the truth is that it's easier to get like very neutral colored upholstery. And so with this hack, you can kind of make it whatever color you want. And I love that. As a color lover, it's important for me to have like colorful things, and this feels like so much more fun and vibrant, and I love that. The only regret I have with the way I did this is I skipped a step. I have like a stain on the arm of my sofa, and I was like, clean that before you start dyeing it. But like bringing it down the stairs and like getting it outside, I totally forgot. And so like once we were dyeing it, it really was showing up more, and it was kind of obvious. Because it's in my craft room and I like sit on it maybe 20 minutes a day, it's like not a big deal. But definitely if you have stains on your upholstery, clean them first. I would suggest using Folex. Again, I will link it below. That works really great at getting stains out, because you just don't want to like have something that's making it so the dye doesn't penetrate and that it'll always look bad when you could spend 2 minutes fixing it. Okay, so the dye job on my sofa is not 100% perfect. There's like a few speckles, like a little streak here, but mostly it looks great. So I am super happy with it. I would definitely suggest trying it. I think it's fun. If you are a perfectionist and like nothing but perfect will do, don't do this. For me, the most annoying part was carrying it down the stairs because we have a really narrow stairway, and getting it out of the house. But that, like, it honestly took 10 minutes of annoyingness and a few hours of dyeing, and now I have a sofa I really love, and it was fun to try. So if you want to try it, please let me know how it turns out. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already, please subscribe.